وانفعنا وزدنا علما إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So alhamdulillah, one thing I want to make clear again about this book, Some Secrets of the Divine Approaches. I didn't make this clear yesterday. Is the book, what it aims to do, what the Imam is doing, is he's laying out the wisdoms behind rulings. That's the key thing that we have to bear in mind, is that he's laying out 22 rulings in Islam and the wisdoms behind them. Like, why has Allah commanded this? Why has Allah legislated this? So yesterday, we talked about dua, we talked about dhikr, and we talked about primarily, obviously, the command to faith, right? The command to have iman. Now we're looking at things like unity and brotherhood, and we're getting into commanding the good and forbidding the evil, okay? So the first thing we get into, and this is getting, I believe the chapters would be, I think they're like 2, 3, 17, and 20. Okay. If I remember this correctly. But we start here with the obvious one, the divine command for unity. Hold fast the rope of Allah altogether and do not separate. Right? So the command is obvious. The command to unite, and this is a thing we talk about all the time, right? Muslim unity is Muslim unity, Muslim unity. How do we unify the Muslims? How do we make ourselves stronger? Isn't it obvious that because we are so separated or disunited, this is why the enemies of Islam take advantage of us and they pick us apart and so on and so forth. Now, what the Imam starts off is he says again, so this verse, this sublime verse, affirms the most important ruling concerning Islamic unity, which is the obligation to be united and closely connected. And it says, hold fast the rope of Allah, right? So what we have to bear in mind here, okay, unity cannot just be an empty slogan. You can't just call for unity and then it's like, okay, well, what are we uniting around? What are we uniting around? This is the key thing. Because people say, okay, like the example I gave yesterday, be grateful. Okay, well, be grateful to who? Right? We have to complete the whole story. Okay, unify, but unify around what? Unify around, like, what are these principles or beliefs or doctrines that bring us together, right? And it's one of the interesting things to think about when we look at a lot of, like, the way the world is laid out right now and the political systems, is there's this sort of assumption that because people have a shared ethnic background, a shared tribal background, a shared language, they're just going to unite and form a country, right? The Hungarians will do this, the Chinese will do this, the Mongoloids will do this, the Russians will do this. And it's like, okay, so they have the same ethnic background or racial background or tribal background, the same language. But what does it have to do with ideas, right? What actually unites people is what's in the mind and in the heart. That's what unites people. It's not, you can't assume, well, two people come from the same village, they're just going to agree. Like, no, that doesn't make any sense, right? People can be very, very diverse from diverse backgrounds, kind of like the way we are, and we agree, right? We can come from different parts of North America, different parts of Africa, different parts of Asia, different parts of Europe, but we agree, right? Even though we have nothing in common otherwise, right? So this is what the Shaykh is getting at. We do not need to explain why, okay, we don't explain why this is necessary, but what's the wisdom? What's the wisdom holding fast to Allah's rope being the best way to unity, such that the necessity of holding fast to it is the first of the two commands in this verse, right? You hold fast to this verse, right? It's only possible on shared doctrines and principles, right? You can't have unity otherwise, right? And this is why I just add this hadith here, where the Messenger of Allah said this to Ibn Abbas, or related by Ibn Abbas, is in the Muslim Imam Ahmed, where he said, "Alaykum bi-sawad al-a'zam," right? You must follow a sawad al-a'zam, right? The sawad, like the vast majority, the overwhelming majority. This is what the hadith is referring to. Ibn Manzur in the Lisan al-Arab, he says this is Jami' an-nasi wa jumhuruhum, right? Like the mass of the people and their collectivity, right? So there is something we call the, Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the Muslim majority, the Muslim over majority, roughly 90% of the Ummah throughout history. That's what we're commanded to follow. And then we have all these breakaways, but we have this key thing. This is the thing about unity. We had to agree on what the Sawad al-A'zam was upon. We want to stick to what the Messenger of Allah taught us, and then the companions and the tabi'in, atba'in. That's what we want to follow. That's what the Sawad al-A'zam is. That's what we have to stick to. So, and he gives the wisdom behind this, and it's not complicated. So people have to come together on something and then they can unify. If that axis does not exist, it doesn't work, right? And so that's why he says, this is the quote from the book, he says, try approaching a group of people whose ideas are influenced by differing and conflicting principles and values, among whom there's dispersion and discord, and call on them as you wish towards union solidarity, and warn them, and what would your impact be? Right? Like, if you think about this is an interesting to think about, right? And I know you Canadians are being very, very wary of Americans nowadays. They might take over, right? But one of the things you have to bear in mind, one of the things you have to bear in mind here, like I'll give you an example, right? See, Americans, uniquely enough, and this is I'm telling you this as your brother and as a warning. You have to understand this. Americans, probably more than a lot of countries, they have unifying factors, right? They talk about their constitution, and that's why they can unify around these kinds of slogans, right? Like MAGA and America First. They can do that, right? And you see some people in the UK, they say like, yeah, we need a MAGA movement like that. In the UK, it's like it's never going to happen in the UK. I'm telling you, it's never happening. Why? British people, number one, they hate each other. They do. They generally hate each other. It's the most like intensely like classist society ever. They will never unify, right? And they don't even have like the UK. We don't even have like sorry to say, I'm saying we, maybe they, right? They don't have like a written constitution. They don't have any shared principles. What do they unite around? Yes.
Um, Liverpool and Manchester United.
Yeah. But see, that's the point though. That's the point though. Like you raised that point. Like, okay, we're talking about unities of peoples, right? A lot of people in the UK, a lot of people in the UK, and Liverpool is especially like this. They care more about their local quote unquote soccer team than they do about the national team. They don't give a rip about the national team. National team is boring to them, like, right? When they hear about like, oh, it's the international break, England's been playing someone. The Premiership is 2 more weeks. They're not interested, right? So, so this is kind of what the Imam is saying to us. Like people don't unite around these things. You're not going to unite English people around tea and crumpets, because even that is a classic thing, right? You come to the like seriously, I'll tell you something, right? In England, people do not even agree upon what tea means. Yeah, seriously. They don't even know they don't even agree on what tea means. In the South, it's a warm drink that you put it's hot water with tea bag in it and you add some milk and sugar. In the North, it's a meal. It means it's synonymous with dinner. It causes immense confusion. It's like I remember the first time I landed like in the North, it's like, oh mate, what are you having for your tea? Uh, tea? No, mate, like fish and chips. What? Fish and chips for my tea? What the? But this is the king. You have to keep this in mind. People don't have these unifying factors. This is what I'm getting at, right? Americans maybe. Americans maybe. Canadians, you have to think about this. Is it maple syrup? Is it the pancakes? Right? But what Imam Abulti is getting at is something obviously far more serious, right? What people have to unite around is faith, and they have to unite around something that is not seen as subjective or benefiting one group of people over another, which is one of the things I mentioned yesterday. So, example from the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam planted faith in the Muslims before calling to unity. The Aus and the Khazraj, right? They were only united once their hearts held the same creed. Before that, they were always warring. They're Arabs. They're both Arab tribes. They both live in Medina. You think, oh, they have plenty in common, but they're constantly warring with each other. When Allah, through the Messenger of Allah, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, puts faith in their hearts, then they can come together. Then it's possible. And he says here, if the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had invited the Arabs of Aus and Hazraj to Medina to love each other and unite before putting the creed of faith in Allah in their hearts, before putting man in their hearts and following the Sunnah, it would have been like passing wind. His words, despite eloquence, would have fallen on deaf ears, wasted in the midst of their fierce battles and raging wars. And likewise, the Jews in Medina would have been successful in their plots against them. So you have to have this unity between people where they believe that or in order to have unity between people, they have to have this common belief in something. They have to have a shared principle which pushes them to love one another, and then they can be united. If we don't work on instilling faith in people, and we want to make faith has to be the number one thing that identifies us, right? Like we are Muslims first and foremost, and then we are whatever tribal affiliation, whatever ethnic affiliation, whatever it is afterwards, but we're Muslims first and foremost. And then that brings unity. Because if we put some identity before that, then that becomes a barrier to unity. It's like, yeah, you're my Muslim brother, but you're Bangladeshi. It's like, right? That's not the way it should be. No, it's you're my Muslim brother, you're my Muslim brother, right? So it has to have that shared axis, right? So again, like I just said, you're creed before brotherhood, right? So faith turns conflict, and this is the same ayah. And then Allah says, like you were enemies, then Allah joined between your hearts. You became, by His blessing, you became believers. Okay, so this is the first thing we want to talk about unity, is the fact that faith is thicker than blood. Faith is thicker than blood. You bring people together based on shared doctrines and principles. Shared doctrines and principles. It can't be, skin color or background or what country you're from. That doesn't last. That doesn't work, and it's nothing to unite around. And that's why all these countries in the world, they struggle to stay together, right? They struggle to stay together, right? Because they don't actually have anything that unites them other than the fact, well, I call myself Lebanese or I call myself Canadian. Okay, well, then what? Then it's just confusion. There's nothing to agree upon. And Allah's path is the only way, right? Allah said, "Inna hadha sirati mustaqim fattabi'uhu." So again, this question comes up. Okay, well, if we say that people need to unite around an idea, right? It can't be based on skin color or ethnicity or background or whatever, or tribal affiliation. If we say that people have to unite around an idea, why can't they unite around a secular idea? Why can't they unite as, oh, someone on Zoom is trying to communicate. Okay, no. Why can't they unite around a secular idea? Why can't they unite around communism or capitalism or whatever? Because as we were covering yesterday, human ideas, man-made ideas, are always subject to change. They're always subject to reform. They're always subject to, as the Americans say, amendments, right? There's always, because again, like I was saying yesterday, first of all, every time human beings legislate something, or they make up like a political system or legal system or an economic system, it's always designed to benefit some group of people. Okay, it's not free of any agenda. It's not free of any bias. That's the first thing to bear in mind. Whereas when Allah legislates, it's for our benefit. Allah has nothing to gain, nothing to benefit from what He legislates. It's all for us. Allah is perfect. He has no need of us. The second thing is that human beings, we don't know the future. We don't know how circumstances will play out. So we can't legislate in a way that would cover all the eventualities, whereas Allah can, because Allah knows exactly what will happen, when it will happen, how it will happen, and therefore He legislates accordingly. We can't do that. And again, this is why you look at man-made systems, they're always changing things. They're always doing their amendments. They're canceling laws. They're rewriting laws. And there's no end to it. And then the other thing that the Imam mentions here is that this leads to all these conflicts that people have, because what happens is you saw this in the last century, you have like communism versus capitalism. You have competing human interests, and this leads to major conflicts throughout the world. So again, in summary, without divine guidance, people just have these man-made principles, and these are open to debate and disagreement. Only Allah's path unifies hearts and minds. Again, like I said, every man-made ideology, divine, only benefits one group of people. Human beings don't know the future, and because human interests differ, conflict ensues, and proponents of differing ideologies go to war, as we saw in the last century, and even happens now. Tayyib. Is that clear so far? Making sense? You guys are okay? Alhamdulillah. And the good thing is we're here on July 4th to show people that. Yes. Yeah, go ahead. You got a question?
One of the things I would like to ask Sidi is that in terms of guidance, it's not just it's not the guidance itself, but it's also the outlet of where and how you get guidance. Because one of the things I'm noticing with Western ideology, especially with the blue bill, red bill,
Yeah.
it's coming into the Muslim community as well.
Mm.
Like in the blue bill, you have the Ustad of feminists, and the red bill, you have Muslim Ustad of Sheikh Twitter, again, faith.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of us are falling into it.
Mm.
So, in a case like this, we should also always go back to our traditional ulama.
Yeah,
Because there's not just philosophical ideas, there's our afterlife that's.
yeah. No, that's definitely a point. Because there's a few things to say in response to that. Number one is when unbelievers talk about something being beneficial, right? There's a big difference between our understanding and their understanding. When we talk about something being beneficial, we look at not just the dunya but the akhirah, right? We don't just say, okay, this is beneficial, this will help me now. But yeah, but if you're disobeying Allah, then it's not benefiting your akhirah. So we have to keep things sound. We have to keep things within the parameters that Allah has set. That's absolutely crucial, absolutely important. The second thing is we have to spend a lot more time thinking about. One of my teachers actually did a series on this, like looking for role models, right? Looking for role models, right? A lot of people who they turn to for role models is like, yes, a person might say, right? I know, red pill, green pill, and these like the Andrew Tates of the world, right? Okay, he might say something correct. He might make a valid point. Good for him, right? A broken clock works twice a day, right? Good for him. But you have to look at the overall picture. Like, how is this guy a role model? Like, is he married? Where's his wife? Where are his kids? Where are his parents? Like what kind of lifestyle, what kind of lifestyle is he leading that would make me want to follow what he does? Right? These are just these obvious things to be looking for. Okay, so maybe in his routine, okay, maybe okay, he's generally healthy, like he works out, he has a disciplined routine. Okay, fine, fair enough. But then it's like, look at the deeper stuff. And when you see someone who like never ever talks about his parents, never talks about his wife, never talks about his kids, it's like, right? One of my teachers said to me, because he grew up in the West Coast of the United States, and he mentioned this individual to me. He said, like, the way that guy dresses from where I'm from, that's how homosexuals dress. Just saying, right? Like, you have to think seriously. So that's why it's very very important to bring people into line. Not just not just to study the lives of the prophets, the lives of the companions, but it's also good to be familiar with other men nowadays. Right? That's one of the things I always try to do. Like, so someone like Imam al-Bulti, like he's a contemporary scholar. Some of the Imam Muhammad al-Sha'rawi, Imam Ahmad Zuhayli, Imam Muhammad Ta'wil. There's so many contemporary scholars that you can think of, and you can take them as an example. Just look at the way they live their life. How did they work around modern things? How do they deal with social media? How do they deal uh, um, with you know treating the unbelievers? How do they deal with things like communism or socialism or secular? How do they deal with these things? And but also just to look at their daily routines, like how are they organized? What they do? How are they with their families? You see, so we have role models. We just have to bring them out. Yes.
Well, I'll answer very briefly. For the brothers, there's a book by Imam Dawood Walid. He's based out of the US. It's called Futuwa.
Mm,
And I purchased that book in 2020, like early 2020 when COVID just started.
mm.
And the reason I believe that a lot of the brothers and sisters get that book, he actually called out Jordan Peterson and he labeled him as a fraud and a charlatan.
Oh, well ahead of time.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
this was before the October 7th.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Like 3 years before. Yeah. No, it's good. No, I had a friend of mine as well who noticed that about that individual. Yeah. It's better. I mean, alhamdulillah, I think people, you guys are all in this area. We have the green pill coach, my brother Fahim, who's doing good work, mashallah. Trying to address those issues and bring people back to the sunnah, right? So it's really good to be aware of these things and not just fall for every little move that comes along because it sounds good, right? That's the important thing. Something may sound good and convincing. Yeah, again, like Jordan Peterson's perfect example. Like okay, that makes sense. It's like, well, yes, okay, clean your room, be disciplined, be organized. Yeah, that's true. That's all good stuff. But then, like I'm sure, like Dawood Wali probably notices, like, why does this guy always sound like really depressed? Like his laughs, even his laugh sounds forced. Like his laugh sounds like there's crying in the background, right? You have to ask yourself that question. Okay, you're meant to be the self-help guru, but and then also we know what happened with the when he thought his wife was going to die and he fell into depression. It's like, what's going on there, right? You have to be people have to practice what they preach. That's what way to judge it. You don't buy the fat guy's diet book, right? Very simple. So the next thing is separating from evil and its people. This is a really, really important principle. Um, about keeping distance from people who are involved in evil, right? And this is what the key part of this verse is. You see that second line. When you hear Allah's signs being rejected and mocked by people, you must not sit with them until they start talking to other things. If they do, you are just the same as them, right? So you don't want to be in a situation, again, as a general principle, where people are engaged in sin and you are simply there, right? Because when you're there, it's like you're condoning it. Even though you're not participating in it, you're not partaking in it, you're condoning it. And then what's even worse is people could use your presence there as justification. Well, so-and-so was there and he didn't say anything, right? So let's get into a bit more deep detail here. So a Muslim should not remain indifferent to any prohibited vain talk that he hears, or any form of sin, or any sin that he sees, and then not separate it from it or act to stop and rebuke him. We're going to get into this later on about commanding the good and forbidding the evil. We're going to get into this later on. But the important thing is that as best you can, you should seek to separate yourself from these situations, because you don't want to come under the ruling of the people who are partaking in it, because it's like you're there and you're not doing anything. Now, we'll talk about it later again, what you could do if you are there. But the point of this thing is in general, staying away from people, right? Being wary of the company you keep, right? There's a hadith about this where the Messenger of Allah said that the companions you keep is like a scent, right? If you have good companions, it's like a beautiful scent. You'll pick it up, right? If you have bad companions, it's like a foul scent. You'll pick it up, right? And there are even unbelievers who say that stuff. They said, "Show me your friends, I'll show you your future." Right? You're hanging around a bunch of slobs. That's what you will be in the future, right? You hang around people who are disciplined and principled. That's how you will be. So the ruling is agreed upon by all imams researchers because the clear, unambiguous text leaves no room for acceptance or interpretation. You're not supposed to be around people who do these things. They will have a bad influence on you. And then the wisdom, again, he'll explain here, is the dangers of passive exposure. The dangers of passive exposure, like watching sin but not reacting to it. There's familiarity, comfort, and then attachment. And he leaves it out here. Just this is a quote from the book. See, first of all, you get used to it. You think, oh, it's no big deal. Yeah, I see this guy smoke all the time or drink, whatever. I just get used to it. Then the second thing is you feel comfortable with it. It doesn't affect you anymore. And then you become attached to it and you find justifications for it, right? You actually try to make excuses for people. Oh yeah, he does that because okay, but you've been around this person for a long time, right? So sometimes, sometimes, and this is something you might want to be aware of, or especially as you grow older and you become more experienced. I'm just going to give you just like basic experience advice. Because of the salt and pepper in my beard, I will say this to you, right? You might come across people who will turn to you for help, right? An individual, a brother or sister, will come to you for help. And they will talk about their experience, maybe in their childhood, or the problems they had in the masjid as a kid, or maybe they didn't get along with their imam, or maybe they didn't have issue, they had issues with their parents, something like this, right? And they say that, I want to get things right with Allah. Okay. So in the stage one, yes, you listen to this person. Of course, you listen to this person. You let this person vent their frustrations, vent their feelings, and so on and so forth. But then eventually you have to say to this person, okay, this is great. I've understood your grievances. I've understood your problems. I understand where you're coming from and so forth. Now we need to move to the next step. Okay. Like, yes, I don't disagree. I totally understand where you're coming from, what your childhood was like, or what it was like with the imam, or what it was like with your parents. But now we need to move to the next step. Let's get you into a Quran class. Let's get you learning some Arabic. Let's get you learning some fiqh. Let's get you into some study circles, and then you can build from there. If you then try to move that step and this person keeps complaining, then there's something deeper there, right? Because it's like, hey, are we just going to complain forever? Right? And this is a person who's got himself entrenched or herself entrenched in a type of a victim mentality, right? My wife and I had this experience actually with like a brother and sister who like my wife's old friends, family friends, right? So my wife spoke to the sister, I spoke to the brother, and it was like and it was like the same trajectory, right? Stage one, okay, talk about your child, talk about what goes on, and then my wife's like, okay, great, now let's do some Quran together because my wife teaches tajweed. Let's do some Quran together. Let's get you learning, right? So then she started doing tajweed with my wife. She actually started taking Arabic classes with me, fiqh classes, and she's on. Her brother, on the other hand, he just kept complaining. It's like more complaints, and then more complaints, and then more complaints. It's like, okay, what are we gonna do? Like where's the step, right? And this is a case where with these kind of people, you have to be polite, but like when you realize that someone is not prepared to take that step, you don't want to get yourself bogged down, right? You don't want to get yourself bogged down, right? Be polite to that person, be good to that person, but then you want to sort of take a step back and say, there's nothing I can do. Like I'm offering my services or I'm offering my help, but you've just got this victim mentality with this chip on your shoulder and you're not taking it further. This is just something to bear in mind. It's just something to bear. Yes.
I'll try and pass on to because you're adding because it provides so much beneficial information. In a situation like that, do you feel that a man and woman cope with like difficulties and problems? Because I faced similar instances, like some other teachers, like they could like the first time I told them on my scenario, they had some empathy, and and a couple of days after, right, like they made me do push-ups. I felt that I could cope better.
Yeah.
So the brother in that scenario, if he did like if he went to like a gym or something instead of
Well, he was going to the gym and these kinds of things, but what I'm saying is like like I was saying is like he wanted to talk about Islam, right? That's how it starts. And then he wants to complain about, the Mulvi Saab when he was growing up. And then he wants to, you know these terms. You think I didn't know these terms? I know you people. I study you people. I have a PhD in you people. Okay. So, it's like, and so I listened to him explain everything. And then when I tried to suggest, okay, let's move on from that. Okay. That was your past. It's one of the things I mentioned we did last year. We did this lecture last year on Islam, the problems of the youth. And one of the key things we said here is like, yeah, it's not your fault what happened to you as a child, right? It's not your fault. Okay. Don't beat yourself up over your childhood, but you are responsible for what you do about it as an adult. You are responsible. You can't blame your childhood forever and keep whinging about your childhood forever, right? It's like if your parents raised you on a strict diet of pizzas and donuts, and now you're morbidly obese, you can't just use that excuse forever. I weigh 300 pounds because my parents. Okay, yeah, but you're an adult now. You have a car. You can go to the supermarket. You can find the celery, right? And right, and you can build from there, right? You can build from there. You have that responsibility. Yes.
I think that's for a real uh, I've had this lesson for previous teachers, and the best response to something like this would be a question that how can you use vulnerability as a weapon to those who you perceive as to those whom you perceive as more powerful than you are as a threat.
Yeah.
So for example, let's say like I drop out of my school because for example, my siblings or my parents were bullied and stuff, right? And I'll use that as an excuse to play a victim mindset. So if I can't get a job or go to college again because of what this person did 2 years ago.
Yeah. You're letting that person destroy you. You're letting the bully destroy you, right? Because that's what the victim mentality does. It completely disempowers you and says, I can't do anything. This is how I am. I can't do anything. It's completely utterly destructive. And you're giving in to your bullies and your oppressors, right? You're letting them destroy you. So just move on with this topic. So
Sorry,
no problem. Right. So again, this is the slippery slope. So eventually the heart no longer hates it. or hates sin, then it starts defending it, and that's how values are lost. And this is one of the things that what the Imam brings up, and you can read this in the book. He brings up in these couple slides, is he talks about, and this is something he's from Syria, and he's saying that again, a lot of Muslims who migrate to like non-Muslim lands, they migrate to Europe or they migrate to North America, and he says that's what he describes. Like at first, it's like they're disgusted about what they see, but then over time, it's like they acclimatize to it. And then it's like, well, it's no big deal. Who am I to judge, right? The aversion just goes away and goes away, right? Which is why it's very, very important to build Muslim communities if you're out here. And why he brings up again this issue of hijra, right? Which again is mentioned sort of Nisa 97, the eyes are in front of me, was the laws not earth not vast enough for you to make hijra therein, right? From Darul Kufr to Darul Islam. Because you only want to be here, right? You only want to be here for the purpose of maybe seeking knowledge that you can't get in the Muslim world. You want to be here for maybe because you need a livelihood for a certain period of time. Maybe you're here for dawah, or you're trying to build a Muslim community, because that's a big one as well. If you're trying to turn Darul Kufr into Darul Islam through persuasion, through conviction, through preaching to people, these are all valid things. But you always want to have in the back of your mind that you don't want to get comfortable here in these lands. You do not want to get comfortable here. You want to have like a plan B somewhere that involves going back to the Muslim world. You have to be aware of that, right? This is one of the things. Again, the brother mentioned like October 7th. This is one of the things that really, I would say, especially in the UK, right? Like it woke up people. It woke like the situation with Gaza, the way the British government's been funding this. It's like, all this talk about democracy and human rights and we're all equal, we're all the same. It's like, man, you guys really don't like Muslims, do you? Right? Like it's pain in the ass. It's like it's sort of like a wake up call. Like, okay, all that fluffy rhetoric, wonderful, but what we're seeing is that same imperial mindset, that colonial mindset, that racist mindset, that even that crusader mindset, it hasn't died. It hasn't. It's still there. It's still there. It's just there from 1,000 years. It's still there. So you have to keep that in mind and not get too comfortable. If you're here in these lands, have a Muslim community. Make sure that you, your families, your kids, they're around good people. They have good influences. This is really, really important. You have to think about this. Why it's important to think of things like Muslim schools or homeschooling. Be aware of these things, right? So that people just don't take sinful behaviors. Just that's a norm. What can you do about it? We just accept it. This is what the Shaykh is making. This also again, if you live among evil, but there's conditions. Either you're seeking essential knowledge or livelihood. This is what's mentioned in the book. But on top of that, you can think about dawah. But guard your iman like a gem. Guard your iman. Guard your iman. Make sure, again, this is why the importance of Muslim communities, homeschooling, Muslim schools, regular Muslim contact is very, very important. Okay, but the Shaykh mentions these exceptions, but you have to be very, very strong when you're involved in these things. Very, very strong. Okay, so that's the second thing. That's the second thing about separating from evil. Something to think about is hijrah. It's just something to keep in the back of your mind. But while you're here, make sure that you are strong. Make sure that you are strong, and make sure you keep links. And again, one of the things you definitely in the meantime, if you're not going to move there right now, or it doesn't look something likely, travel. Right, travel to the Muslim world, maintain links with the Muslim world, like no teachers over there, no ulama over there, have Muslim contacts, right? Don't burn your bridges or anything like that. Okay, now part three. Now let's get into part three about how do we build up unity? How do we build up unity? It's not for a Muslim to disdain his Muslim brother, right? And this is narrated by Muslim, a long hadith from Abu Hurairah. So disdain, we're going to do is ihtiqar. And we'll note there, it's not the same as constructive criticism. Okay, so what's the difference? Disdain is about the person, right? You have the contempt for the person, right? Whereas criticism is the behavior. Okay, we care about the right. We hate the sin. We don't hate the sinner. We don't want to be attacking people. We want to be guiding people away from their behavior. Right? So that's why it says here, the Shaykh says, ihtiqar is when you have contempt towards someone, you regard someone else as inferior. And it comes from the word haqir, which means something that is small or true. So you're looking down at someone as if he's small, he's minuscule. Who is he? Who is he to say anything? Whereas criticism is to address a wrong action or behavior in a person, right? You're talking about the behavior, right? So when we want to, again, this is going to tie into what we're going to look at later about commanding the good from the evil, and this is the thing we have to say again and again, is you want good for the person, right? Because he's your Muslim brother or Muslim sister, you care for that person. You care for that person. You want khair for that person. You want that person to take your advice and follow. You don't want that person to be hurt. You don't want that person to be offended, right? This isn't an ego trip. Yeah, I showed him, right? That's not what this is about. So the Sheikh also talks about the danger of fault finding. Obsessing over flaws leads to contempt. Contempt ties to the community and it feeds the ego, not the soul. So he says one should always remember, this is an important point, one should always remember where one started and that where one is now is not always where one will end up. Okay? So again, if you before you get that feeling in your heart where you see a Muslim dressed in a certain way or acting in a certain way, right? And that feeling in your heart of contempt or arrogance towards him or her might enter your heart. You then want to say to yourself, well, wasn't I like that at one point? I mean, there's a point, even if whether you're a convert or a born Muslim, there's a point where I didn't live in Islam. There was a point where maybe I was struggling. You want to remind yourself of that point. And then you want to tell yourself that where someone is now is not where someone will end up. Okay, right? Where someone is now is not where someone will mess. Okay. Oh, mashallah, that's one of my students from Arcview. Yeah, okay. He's on his way. He's coming from Windsor. You know that city next to Detroit? Yeah. I was teaching the other day. Did you guys have you guys ever read that book? Again, I'm well aware of, Canada's better than America. Get a load of this. Do you remember that book, Stupid White Men from like 2003? Before you were born? Yeah. Yeah. Because I was telling my students the other day, there was he was trying to figure out like why in America do they have so many high school shootings, right? Or so much gun crime, right? And he says, is it because of the availability of guns and this love of guns? And he comes to Canada, he's like, no, Canadians like guns. They go hunting and things. What's the difference? And then he did some statistics. So like Detroit and Windsor are like next to each other. They're within like eyesight of each other. And he noticed that like in 1 year, it's like, the year 2000 or something. It's like in Detroit, there were like several hundred murders in Detroit. Okay. And the same time, there was like one murder in Windsor, just one. So that's interesting. Then he did some digging into like this one murder in Windsor. Like, how did that happen? It was someone from Detroit. Someone from Detroit crossed over and killed someone. Yeah. Lovely. Anyway, so here's where he's coming from. So the point is here, one should always remember where one started, okay? And that where one is not always where one will end up. Now, there's a hadith that's related to this. There's a hadith that's connected to this, which is very, very important, where it's in the Arba'in Nawawi, where the Messenger of Allah said that someone will do the actions of the people of the fire until there's just one hand spending in the fire, and then the decree, like the kitab, catches up with him, and then he does the actions of the people of the Jannah, and then he enters Jannah. And then on the flip side, there's the person who does the actions of the people of the Jannah until he's just a hand span between him and the Jannah, and then the decree catches up with him, and he does the peoples of the fire, and then he enters it. Now, a lot of people read that hadith and they get scared. They think, oh, wait a second, it's like the decree is just going to like overtake me at some point. And that's it. I'm going to go to the Jannah. I'm going to go to the fire against my will, even though I spend my whole life doing worship. And the explanation to that is no. There's another hadith. There's another narration of hadith which adds the wording fima yadhar. Fima yadhar, in what is apparent. This person is doing the actions of the people of Jannah in what is apparent. This person is doing the actions of the people of Jahannam in what is apparent. But then his real state will become apparent later on, and then he enters Jannah or Jahannam accordingly. And that's why I gave you that story yesterday of the young man in Syria who was a known criminal, right? He's a known criminal, like he's actually engaged in criminal activity. So outwardly, that's how people see him. People see him outwardly as a criminal. But inwardly and privately, he's making dua to Allah, saying, "Oh Allah, change me. Oh Allah, how long am I going to be like this? How much longer am I going to be doing these horrible things? Oh Allah, save me." That's his real state, and that eventually came out over time. That eventually came out over time. And likewise, the same thing. We don't want to get beguiled by someone who outwardly looks like he's doing everything he's supposed to be doing, but then inwardly there's something. Inwardly there's something, right? That's why, like one of my teachers said to me, like as a principle, like judge the living by the dead. Judge the living by the dead. Like you're all like when when you want to invest your faith and you want to look at ulama that you're gonna trust and that you're gonna take from, the ones that have passed and left this world are the safest ones because there's nothing more to discover. Right? We know who they are. Their legacy is written, especially the ones who died several centuries ago, someone like Imam Nawawi or figures like this, rahimahullah. It's safe. It's safe. This is a very important thing to bear in mind. Okay. But again, when it comes to this point about fault finding, again, before you advise someone in order to control that content that might come in your heart, you have to remember, okay, this person could very well turn up to be something different later on, or this person, or remember that I was like this at one point. So the principle is you must want good for your brother. Okay. Whereas, question or?
There's Q&A after.
Okay. Oh, no problem. No problem. Okay. Right. So, but this disdain is a destructive behavior, and then it builds resentment and discord and disunity throughout the community. Right. So we don't want to attack people. We want to look at people's behaviors. But people persist in disdaining others because they always look for faults and flaws in people. And that's why I added this poem here. He said, because again, there's two things to bear in mind. Number one, this is a sunnah, like a standard practice of Allah in the creation, that people are always mixing good and bad. Maybe there's more good than bad, maybe there's more bad than good, but we're always a mixture. We always have flaws. And that's why this is a line of poetry from Imam Shafi's Diwan, where he says, if a person is intelligent and careful, his carefulness will preoccupy him from the faults of others. Just like a sick person, his own pain will preoccupy from the pain of everyone else. Right? Just again, think of the last time you had like a massive headache, or you had a fever, or you had the flu, or you had a cold. You didn't care about anyone else with cold or flu. That's how it should be, right? You want to think about your own flaws first, right? Now, that doesn't mean that you don't give people other advice, but when you think about your own flaws, your own faults, your own shortcomings, that humbles you. That humbles you when you give someone advice. You recognize, and that's why, like, just as a simple tip, when you're giving advice to people, you want to say things like we always struggle. We as Muslims, we struggle. Not, I see you're struggling. Well, if you want to be like me, that's not gonna work with someone, right? I've seen people do this in front of me, and they use lines like, "I used to be like you." No, don't say to someone you just met, "I used to be like you." How do you know, right? Just say, I noticed that there's this and there's this and this, right? We as Muslims, we always struggle with such and such, and that's more effective. Okay. But if someone's obsessed with fault finding, then they'll always find fault with people, and they'll never be pleased with anyone, and it becomes a hobby. And then that destroys the heart, and they get this crime of disdaining and despising people. Okay. So we want to give sincere advice, not scorn. And he says here, the only effective remedy for someone who's afflicted with this issue of fault finding and of disdain is, again, to reflect on oneself. Always remember your own shortcomings, your own sins, and then realize, okay, I'm not better than other people, right? Because that's will lead to arrogance, that leads to disdain. But at the same time, but that doesn't mean that we are content. As we covered before, it doesn't mean you're content with other people's deviations. What it means is that the point is that when it comes to advising someone, you keep yourself humble because you remember your own flaws. You remember your own struggles with obeying Allah, your own struggles with making yourself a better person. You remember that when you're advising someone. And this is what leads us to the last bit, the last part of the presentation, which is, again, okay? And Allah gives this principle to us in Surah Al-An'am 108. Do not curse those they call upon besides Allah, in case they curse Allah in animosity. Right? You have to be very careful about this. Right? So if you're talking to someone who's not a Muslim, whether it's a Jew or a Christian or a Hindu or a Sikh, whatever, if you say something about this person's religion like by way of mockery or whatever, how do you think they're going to react? They're going to say something about your religion. They're going to say something about Allah. They're going to say something about the Messenger of Allah. So you have to be careful what I say. How you treat people, because and that sin falls back on you because you provoked it, you encouraged it, even if you're making a fair point. So he says here, a believer might insult the idols and other gods that other people worship besides Allah. Okay, and even though it's something that is wrong, okay, it's justified in the sense that yes, what there is idol worship, it's shirk, it's wrong. But the way you do it, the way you attack it, the way you critique it is going to provoke that person to say something horrible about Islam, to say something horrible about the Messenger of Allah, to say horrible about Allah, and that will fall back on you. So he says, even if it initially looks justifiable or looks like justifiable fervor and solicitude for what Allah has declared sacred, the means are wrong. The means are wrong. So he said, that's why it says, just a summary, even just anger can be wrong if it provokes more evil. So our intentions have to be pure, and we have to use methods here. You must want good for the person you are advising. You must not seek to hurt him or to make yourself look good. Again, social media. This is one of the dangers of social media, because one of the things that's like the pitfall of social media is that, I'm sure you've noticed this, right? I'm sure you've noticed this. Do you know how there are people who are like really brazen and flagrant online, but then in person they're like really timid, right? Because when they're online, they can hide behind the anonymity. They don't know where you are. They put on a nickname. They say, "Yeah, man, I'll show you." Right? There was a what was it? There was a boxer or MMA fighter. I forget, was it Zeb Judah or something like that? There's actually a funny video on YouTube of, yeah, I think he was an MMA fighter, and there was a guy who went onto his YouTube channel and started like trash talking him, saying, this MMA fighter, he's old, he's weak, he's retired. I could take him. I could beat him up. So then that same MMA fighter tracked him down and found out where he works and just walked into his workplace, like a clothing shop. Just walked in. It's like, were you the guy who said that, that I'm old and washed up and you could just take me? The guy looked, he's like, you see the color like drain from his face. He started looking for the nearest exit, like, I was just playing, man. It's like, but that's the danger of social media. Like people can get sucked into getting into these big ego trips. Like, I'm going to show you, I'm going to put you in this place. And again, they hide behind the anonymity. They hide behind this because they say, like, this guy, I don't know where he is. He could be anywhere in North America. He could be in Europe somewhere. The chances of us meeting are very, very rare. But it's like, maybe they're not so rare, right? Because if you're anonymous, he's anonymous. He could live on your street for all you know. You don't know. So, but social media has that temptation. Again, you have to be very, very careful about how people act. And again, I don't really debate with people on social media, but you have to always tell yourself, okay, I'm a Muslim. I need to have good manners. And again, you get in a situation where people might insult you, they might say horrible things to you, and you just want to say, no, this is it, and then you just want to walk away. You don't want to get sucked into that, into this horrible behavior. So, Amr bin Ma'ruf Nahy al-Munkar is like a science in and of itself. But what the Sheikh is saying here, and these points I've underlined, is that it can only be done when your nafs is free of agendas, desires, and grudges. Like you're not trying to hurt the person, you're not trying to offend the person, you're not trying to make him look stupid, and you're not trying to make yourself look good. You're not trying to make yourself look good in front of your followers, right? Like you want to record it on Instagram. Watch me, I'm gonna show this deviant. Yeah. Because the result is what? This guy's going to be hurt. This guy's going to know that the quote unquote nasiha that you gave was not for his benefit, but it was actually to embarrass him, to show him up, and for you to gain followers and to get likes. And he's not going to see that, and he's going to know that you didn't do that because you actually cared about him. And that might force him to become more stubborn and persist more in his bad behavior or whatever it is. This is not what Allah is pleased with. So again, religious disagreement. Is it for Allah or is it for yourself? Again, this harshness is driven by ego. It's not by iman, right? This is very, very scary stuff. And this is why he says the necessity of looking at the etiquettes, the necessity of etiquettes is greater than the necessity of actually doing the forbidding of the right and enjoying the wrong, or forbidding the forbidding the wrong and enjoying the right. The etiquettes have to be covered first. And this is why Amr bin Ma'ruf Nahy al-Munkar, as mentioned in Surah Al-Imran, Ayah 110, is you always have to ask yourself, okay, use your own discretion. Okay, if I approach this person, even sometimes you have to ask yourself, okay, even if I were to approach this person gently and calmly, how would this person react? Would this person just fight with me or argue with me or insult me and would lead to bigger problems? Maybe that person will listen to someone else, right? Sometimes like you really, really want someone to get a piece of advice, but maybe you're not the one to give it. Maybe this person just for whatever reason will not listen to you, right? It can be very, very hard, for example, to maybe advise a parent. It might be very, very hard to advise an older sibling, right? Because the first thing they think is, who are you? Who are you to advise me, right? So you think, like, who can I get that my older brother or sister or my dad would respect, and then get him to talk to her, to talk to this person, right? You have to think about these things. Maybe it's not. Maybe you're just not the person. Right? It's not your fault. It's just the way that person sees things. So we have to be careful about this difference between anger for the sake of Allah the Exalted and solicitude, I care and concern for his religion, but then anger for one's ego, right? One of the things that you read when you read the seerah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu is that he would always like when they talk about him, when the companions mention him getting angry, he sallallahu would get angry when Allah's haqq was violated, right? When Allah was disobeyed, that would make him angry. But when people insulted him personally, he left it. He left it, right? Because you have to be careful. You have to sort of like check yourself, like, hey, why am I getting angry? Is it truly because Allah has been disobeyed, or is it because my ego has been threatened, right? And this is why he gives this example of the teacher, right? This actually mentioned in the book. He says you have a teacher, and a student of his does something, and the teacher lashes out at the student, not because the teacher feels that Allah has been disobeyed, but he feels like, oh, he's insulted my rank, right? How dare he behave like that in my presence, right? It's an ego thing. Or the other example he gives is what if it's someone who I think it's here, yeah. Or again, another example, someone who like outwardly has like a religious appearance, and someone in Ramadan is eating in front of him. He thinks, oh, this person is eating food in front of me. It's just like me. I must tell him off. No, right? That's that's the ego talking. We have to be very, very careful of this. Just as a side note, I'm sure everyone knows this, but just to remind you, okay, number one, if it's Ramadan and you are not fasting for whatever reason, it's best to eat in private. That's number one. That's the number one thing to know. Okay, if you are not fasting Ramadan, eat in private. But other people, if you happen to see a Muslim fasting, not fasting or eating in Ramadan in the daytime, give an excuse. Right? For women, it's very easy. You can assume it's the time of the month. Leave it alone. But if you see a brother, you might think maybe he's sick. Maybe he has a long-term health condition. Right? But like keep that in mind before you jump on it. Right? It's like, oh, how dare you? Right? Just keep that in mind. Right? So this lesson comes up again and again. Check the ego. So he says these egotistical motives like these that cause a person to get carried away and do things that are illegitimate and inefficient when rebuking and teaching. Because again, when you are teaching, when you get angry with someone, or you try to tell someone off and it's motivated by the ego, the person you're talking to, he knows. He says, this is just ego. This person is just trying to make himself look good or feel good at my expense. And he won't listen. He won't accept it. So the conclusion before I open for Q&A is that unity comes from, number one, shared doctrines and principles. And then the community survives through sincere love, advice, humility. We have to be humble with one another when we give nasiha. And we always, like I said, we always have to remember where we come from. Remember our own perfections, our own flaws, and remember that again, the way people are now is not necessarily how they're going to be at the end of their lives. People can change, people can develop, and always give people that that way out. Like the story I mentioned yesterday about the Sheikh who was robbed, and the highway robber sat down to have a meal, and then the chief highway robber revealed that he was fasting. He turned down lunch because he said he was fasting, and then the Sheikh said, "What? Like you're a highway robber, but you're fasting?" But he said, "Don't cut off my one connection to Allah." Right? People, no matter what they say, they can still have that one connection to Allah. It might be fasting, it might be a wird, it might be a dua, but it's there. And so just as we always want to have a door open to Allah that we can go through, we can turn to Allah, and we always have the second chance with Allah, we want to give other people a second chance with Allah, not just write people off and therefore treat them with contempt. Well, alhamdulillah, that means Rasulillah. I'll open the floor for any questions. Mashallah. Yes, brother.
My question is, how much does mental health or health issues like ADHD, procrastination, OCD, or addictions are symptoms of low iman and faith or lack of spiritual peace?
Wow, did you actually write that out?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
I'm sorry. I'm putting,
No, bro, no, mashallah, it's good. Okay, first of all, I'd say this: I'm not a mental health professional, so I don't want to get into trouble. I don't want to get into trouble. That's my disclaimer. I'm not a mental health professional. I have published that book, Depression and Anxiety, right? Which I would recommend looking into. What we said in that book, and the book, by the way, the book was actually proofread by a clinical psychologist that I know, a clinical psychologist and neuropsychologist that I know. She proofread it and gave it the thumbs up. So what I would say is that, and this is the thesis of the book, basically, is this. Okay, if you are feeling depressed or anxious or whatever it is, do not jump to the conclusion that you are mentally ill. Do not jump to the conclusion that you have OCD or any of these conditions that you mentioned, right? Likewise, don't jump to the conclusion that it's black magic, right? Or whatever it is, right? That's another thing. Don't jump to that conclusion, right? Start by asking yourself, how is my relationship with Allah? How is my relationship with Allah, right? Because again, your relationship with Allah, no matter how good you may think it is, there's always room for improvement, right? We're not prophets, we're not angels. There's always room for improvement. So, over like since that book was published like 2 years ago, many people have come up to me and they've asked similar questions. And I've replied by just starting with the basics. I've asked people, okay, when you get up in the morning, do you have like morning adhkar? Do you have like adhkar of waking up, adhkar of the morning? Do you have like a wird? Do you read like the wird of Imam Nawawi or something? Do you read a portion of the Quran in the morning? Do you read like Surah Yasin? Do you do salawat on the Messenger of Allah? So do you read like a portion of Dalal al-Khairat or something? Likewise in the evening, right? Do you do like Surah Kaf on Fridays? Right? And for some people, it's like, really? Well, yeah. That's like the starting point. That's like those are the first building blocks of this, right? It's very important to have that as part of your daily routine. That you have morning adhkar, evening adhkar. You're aware of, okay, what should I do on Fridays? Like because Fridays you should be doing Surah Kaf. Some ulama like Imam Nawawi, they mentioned reading Surah Kaf twice, doing more salawat on the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all these kind of things. These are like the starting points between for protecting yourself against, say, evil eye or black magic or all these kinds of things, waswasa. These are your protections. So what I'm saying in the book is you want to try to improve your relationship as best as possible, as best as you can. And then if there are still issues after that, then you can think, okay, maybe I need to speak to a mental health professional. You see what I mean? All right. Barakallahu feek. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah.
some kind of education.
Yeah.
What about staying with the intention of doing that? I know specifically attacking the Imam Nawawi mentioned that staying in an office like
Yeah.
if that Muslim non-Muslim allow you to worship freely,
Mm.
then you should actually stay and not be in order to affect people around you.
Yeah. I mentioned our.
Oh, okay.
Did I mention-
I can see on the slides.
Oh, okay, no, because I added it on because it's not mentioned in the book. That's why I didn't put it on the slide. But it is, like for example, there's an article on my blog called "The Abodes of the Earth," and I include in there a fatwa by Imam Mahdi rahimahullah, who's a Shafi. He passed away 10 years ago, rahimahullah. And he said if you are in Dar al-Kufr and it's for the purpose of dawah, and what if you are like you are like the pillar of the community, like you're teaching people, you're preaching to people, it's like then you can't leave. That's what you can't leave because like if you leave, people will just sort of dissipate and they'll fall by the wayside. Like now you're responsible, like you've built a community now, you're responsible for people. You can't just get up and go, right? It's like if you think of someone like Dr. Shadi, for example, like what he's doing in New Jersey, people like this, he's built like a big community around him. He wouldn't just like, I'm going to Tareem, bye. It's like, right now what? Right? A lot of yes. Are you indicating something? Okay, sorry. I thought you were like, all right, right? So people have to think this in consideration, and that's what he says in the Fatwa Imam Mahdi Zuhaili. He says because you're trying to turn Dar al-Kufr into Dar al-Islam peaceably through conviction, through persuasion, and you can't just abandon that, right? And then just leave people like high and dry, so to speak, right? Barakallahu feek. Yes, sir. Give other people a chance.
So I wanted to ask about how there's a sense of arrogance that kind of nurtures in Westerners.
Yeah.
And that's very evident in even a lot of the most the history studies.
Yeah.
Where Western students would fall for Sheikh, like Sheikh Mehdi Lock.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've experienced that.
Yeah.
And I feel like for a lot of Watts that doesn't quite go away
Yeah.
down there.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
you also have this trend of people who are very established in the West,
Mm.
and their identity is so Western. I mean, I'm sure you see that in a lot.
Yeah.
They're very British. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like this is the place
Mm.
we shouldn't go anywhere else.
Yeah.
How do you kind of tone that down? It's a very strong sentiment.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, Jazakallah khairan for asking that question. That is a very, very pertinent question. And yes, I have noticed it. Well, thank you, Sada. I have noticed this because there are a lot of people, again, you're absolutely right. There are du'at from the West who still have like a Eurocentric or like a Western supremacist idea. They won't admit it, obviously. They won't admit it, obviously. Yeah, right. Because yeah, and yeah, and I've said this. I've said that they have there's this subconscious belief they don't want to submit to the authority of an Arab or a Kurd or an African or a Mauritanian or an Indian or an Indonesian. They don't want to do that, right? Because because again, I'm from England or I'm from America, right? And they seem to believe that that's like the only way Islam can be revived is like through the West, like right? And they sort of
That's exactly.
and we're and like Islam in the West, Islam in the Muslim heartlands has kind of like died away, but we in the West were reviving it. And it's like I look at that and think like, are you not reading like
Sure, most of them are just getting by. It's not like that one.
yeah.
It's just economic. They're very well off.
Yeah, yeah, but I'm saying like, but it's almost like they're not even looking at the book. Like, are they even like looking at the books that have been produced in the past 100 years by by people like Imam Abulti or Imam Muhammad Zuhaili or Imam Sha'rawi or Imam Muhammad Tawil or Mustafa Khin. I mean, there's so many ulama in like Syria, Egypt, Morocco, Mauritania that have produced so much, and and they're addressing some of these modern issues. It's weird. It's people think that it's almost like it's almost like they think that the entire Muslim world is kind of like isolated, or it's all of it is as pristine and clean as like Nouakchott or like Tarim. It's like, no, it's like Damascus, for example. Like Damascus has like everything. You've got communists, socialists, Druze, Christians, Jews. You're dealing with all the so like all the ideas and stuff that people talk about here, it's over there as well, right? Like Imam al-Bolti will tell you, like this is what he deals with, like just at the university where he's teaching. He's meeting all kinds of people with all kinds of weird ideas. Yeah, evolutionary biologists, they're all there, right? So this idea that, well, Islam is kind of like fading, dying over there, and reviving the West. And one of the things, I actually wrote a book about this, not on this topic, but I mentioned in my book, I wrote a book called The Big Step, called Surviving Islam in the Anglosphere. I published this in 2018. And one of the things I think to bear in mind here is, again, if you study Islamic history and you look at the non-Arabs who've become Muslim, the non-Arabs who become Muslim. So you look at, again, the Indians, huge example, the Indonesians, the Kurds, the Turks, the Berbers, the Hausas, right? All of these peoples, they've all done two things. They've learned Arabic. They've learned Arabic, number one, and they've started publishing and writing in Arabic. They produced great works in Arabic, right? The great grammar books that we have here, like Ibn Ajrum, he's a Berber, Sibawayh, Persian, right? Imam Abu Hanifa goes without saying, Imam Muhammad Ghazali goes without saying, all these major figures, they are learning Arabic, and then they're producing works in Arabic that the whole world can benefit from, the whole ummah can benefit from, right? So what I said in that book was, I said, like, so for these English-speaking Muslims who want to talk about guiding the ummah and being like the greatest scholars ever and taking everything forward, my contention is, where are your books? That's my, where are your books? And I don't mean your translations. Where are your Arabic books? Because that's what everyone before you, every single non-Arab people before you, that's what they've done. You guys, I don't see it. You see, so how we address it is, again, one of the things, I'm aware of your question, brother. I'm coming. Is one of the things I try to do, is through my translation work, again, is I'm trying to connect people to the Muslim heartlands, right? I don't want to come out here to the UK or to Canada and in the US and put myself forward as if I'm na'udhu billah, some sort of like replacement for what's over there. Na'udhu billah, right? We would be in big trouble if that were the case. No, what I'm trying to show you is no, like, look, we actually, by doing this translation work, I'm trying to show you, look, there actually are great ulama still there, right? In the Muslim heartlands, in Fez, in Cairo, in Damascus, in Tarim, and they're doing great work. They're doing great work. You just have to open your eyes. It's there. They haven't gone away. They haven't died. They haven't gone to sleep. They aren't just ignoring. They're constantly teaching and putting out stuff, and they are addressing contemporary issues. They are addressing contemporary issues. So this is where I think that's kind of the remedy to it, is to sort of keep. Sorry. Yeah. That's one of the things, and I think more people need to do that as well. More people need to go out and travel as best as possible. Like, go out to Cairo, go out to Damascus, go out to Fez, connect with ulama, listen to lectures, and I'm glad to see these things are happening more. Like more. I'm noticing more ulama are starting to make like trips out to the West. Like Sheikh Mehdi Lock from Egypt has been coming out to the UK. I don't know if he's went to North America yet. Sheikh Idris Fezi al-Fihri. He's actually like he's the head of Qarawiyyin University. I was with him in the UK last summer. He came and I translated for him. Right, look, there are ulama. Look, here's one. He's alive. Touch him. Look, shake his hand, and he's coming again to the UK. So I might be doing some more promotional material. But this is I think this is the way forward, is to keep pushing the contemporary ulama, keep pushing them and promoting them, and keeping that alive. Right, like, no, these places, they're still producing ulama. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah, and do check out The Big Step if you can. Shawak Lavi. Oh, wait, sorry, there was the brother at the back. Sorry. Sorry, let's see. Yes. Yeah. 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 Uh-huh. Hmm. You're asking about how to interact with Jews. In, okay. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, the default obviously is you show these people politeness, you show them good character. That's how we're always supposed to be. We're always supposed to be. And when it comes to the genocide in Gaza, which is continuation of all the massacres, there's actually a book, I think it's there, translated called The Eminent Rank of Al-Quds by Imam Mahdi Zuhaili, where he argues against all the Zionism and gives you a good detailed history of what's happened here. Is yes, the best thing you can do again is show them good character. Try to have a polite conversation about this, like see if they can actually listen to you. They're willing to like listen to your point of view. But if you find that they're extreme, then you might not want to. You might, but I say like you might just want to keep your distance if it's going to lead to like an argument or a fight or something. Yeah. Okay. 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 Yeah. 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 Just be good to them. Just be good to them, and even if you want to like find common cause in certain things like protesting against what's happening in Gaza and so forth, this is good as long as you're not compromising principles, right? It's the same thing with Christians. It's like yes we can work with you, yes we can find common cause, but we're not gonna pray together or anything like that or these kinds of funky things. But yeah. See, but again, but just show them good character. Like there's nothing in the text. There's nothing that from the Sunnah we're supposed to like hate them or anything like that, right? And again, it's what we're covering today, right? Like when it comes to the unbelievers, yeah, you hate the unbelief, not the unbeliever, right? You want khair for them, so you want to show them humility, you want to show them good character, you want to show them sincerity, you want to make dua for them, uh, and if you show them that you genuinely care about them, they will sense that from you. You'll sense it from you that you're not there to belittle them. You're not there to make them feel stupid. You're not there to offend them or hurt them. They'll appreciate that. So just show them good character. Just show them good character, and inshallah, maybe you can even guide them to Islam that way, right? Inshallah. And barakallahu feek. Yes, sorry. Yes.
Just a question. So a lot of these movements that you spoke about, communism, capitalism, socialism,
Yeah.
they arise from certain philosophies.
Yeah.
Those philosophies have certain books and novels and stuff that gets pushed.
Yeah.
Especially now, like as someone who goes through different experiences,
Yeah.
you look online,
Yeah.
and you YouTube this whatever,
Yeah.
right? It'll recommend like, okay, 48 laws of power, crime and punishment,
Yeah.
these kinds of things, and you're inclined, and you might even dabble into it.
Yeah.
Would you advise like? Because when I did look into that rabbit hole, there was some benefit that I garnered.
Yeah.
It was similar to what you said about the red pill. Like there's something there that's good,
Yeah.
but again, you don't know Machiavelli's thought
Yeah.
influence from like the 1600s. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you gauge that from like a Western philosophical lens? And do you even advise dabbling into that material?
Okay. Okay. Very, very good question. Because I'm aware of, there's some people who've like, there's some Muslims who have strongly encouraged that kind of stuff. And then they've ended up like really confused.
Yeah.
And they've ended up like leaving Islam, right? So you want to, I remember with one of my teachers in the UK, he's Egyptian, but he grew up was raised in the US. And I remember one time I showed him a copy of like Sun Tzu's Art of War.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I said, look, someone gave this to me. And he looked at it and went, there are too many fuqaha to worry about that guy. Too many fuqaha to worry about that guy. Like, and again, the point is, if and doesn't mean like you completely dismiss it, but again, you want to know what our ulama have said first, like what Allah has said first, what the Messenger of Allah said first. You want to get that first, and then you can see, and then you have like a sieve by which to determine other things. A lot of people, they might go like head first and like into philosophy or these other ideologies, and they don't even know what they believe themselves. Right? You have to know what you believe. So you want to cover your basic theology, your basic fiqh, your basic things, and then you might want to dabble and see how these compare. But you need to establish that sieve. You have to think of it like, okay, confirmation bias is not always a bad thing. I actually have a blog post on this called Civilization. You might look it up. But talking about how like confirmation bias is good because the confirmation bias is like a healthy digestive system, right? So when your digestive system is healthy and you eat something, it takes what you need and it gets rid of the rest, right? If it's not healthy, either you're going to vomit everything up, or you're going to have diarrhea, or you're going to have constipation, and it's not healthy. So you don't want to like take on if you don't have that confirmation bias in place, you're either going to absorb everything, or you're going to reject everything, which you don't want to do. You don't want to do. You want to be balanced. You want to say, okay, there's some benefit to take here. It matches what we have in Islam. Great. Everything else I can discard. But if you dive into that stuff before you've set that confirmation, before you've built your healthy digestive system, then it's dangerous. And I think that's what a lot of those guys did that I mentioned, that like they just went off the deep end because they dived into that stuff. It's a weird metaphor. They went off the deep end, but anyway, mixed metaphors. Yeah, they went astray because they didn't have that confirmation bias in place. So make sure you have that in place first. And if you're in doubt about something, then ask someone more knowledgeable. If you're in doubt about something, like, wait a second, does this actually like tie in with what we believe? And then you can ask that question. You see it. Don't just do it all wholesale. Yes, Barakallahu yes. I'm coming to you, brother. Reviewer question. Yes.
So, I think that you, found, but not sort of normalizing yourself with the sins that are committed in
Yeah.
society, like sins that other people commit. And you mentioned like the three step
Yeah.
sort of acceptance thing. Like the first one was first you just ignore it, and after you get like accustomed to it, and then after like you accept it.
Yeah.
So when we talk about things that are like so rooted into this society, like for example, like drinking, right?
Yeah.
Like like at work, like multiple times a day, like someone will bring something up about like, you know, drinking like a beer or like
Yeah.
like a bachelor party or something like that. Just like since it happens so much, how do you actually like express it like a sort of like how do you sort of protect yourself from being accustomed to that and like sort of know that you're not like listen with that without like disrespecting the other person?
So what you could do, alhamdulillah, so you're talking about someone who's like drinking in the workplace.
Not like drinking in the workplace, right? But someone who's like in general, people always talk about it, right?
Oh, okay.
So like, how would you
Just talking about it.
Yeah, like just talking like you could just laugh it off. Is that like
No, it's best just to walk away. It's best just to walk away because um if you walk away, people will know that you don't like to talk about that, right? If you just excuse yourself and walk away. So I asked that question about drinking in the workplace because I lived in Denmark for 4 years. It's actually normal. They actually do drink. They actually drink from the morning onwards, like a bottle of beer for breakfast.
I work in a construction site, that's not allowed.
When I was in Denmark, I'm not joking. No, we used to, I lived in an apartment building. It was like two like big house apartments. And we used to have this thing in Danish called Arbejdsweekend. Danish is a horrible language. Never learn it. It hurts your throat. And so like 4 times a year, like the families would come together and we'd like fix stuff like in the buildings and we'd paint the fences and clean up and stuff. And I remember there was one year they had to fix the tiles on the roof. So these Danish guys who lived in the various houses, they're all dads. They're all 6'5", tall, blonde hair, blue eyes, look like Vikings. And they got like a big like crate of beer, like 24 bottles, and they started drinking from like 8 a.m. And then they got on the roof with the beer and the power tools, and they're just there, just like drilling away, placing tiles while drinking beer. And I'm just there on the floor thinking, it's the malaika, isn't it? It's the malaika. That's what's like Allah is merciful. But that's their culture. That's their culture. So like just that's one thing you tell yourself. It could be worse. It could be worse. But again, but your specific question, I would say just walk away. Just walk away if you find them talking about it. Because and that will give the message that it's not something that should be spoken about in your presence. Right? And you're saying it indirectly, right? Like they start bringing up like drinking or drinking jokes. You just say, "Oh, excuse me," right? Like in the old days when I was your age, it was the beeper. Oh, my beeper. Or maybe you say, I don't know, my phone's vibrating or whatever it is, and just excuse yourself, right? And inshallah, like you just won't hear it, and it won't be something familiar to you. And the people in your workplace, they'll get the hint. They'll get the hint, inshallah. Tayyib. Yes, sir.
To build on his question, let's say it's not just a conversation, but it's like in the workplace, you want, like you have certain meetings, where you have like
Mm.
the balls to go to or dinners to go to that involve a lot of power.
Yeah.
And so walking away is maybe the best option in those cases, but I would do that effectively, especially, you know, it's understood that you should be attending these things.
So that's kind of what I was getting at, is you would want to excuse yourself in a kind of a subtle way. Like, you know, maybe you have to answer your phone, maybe you have to go to the bathroom, maybe you have to clear your throat, maybe it's something like that. But just to get yourself out of the conversation. Just say be creative. Like I say, use your personal discretion and be creative. There's ways to excuse yourself without necessarily like lying or anything, right? Maybe just say, oh, I just need to check something. That's what you can say. I just need to check something, right? And it could be like you want to see if your wife's called you or something like that, your family's called you, right? There's ways to do it, and people won't be offended by that. You just say, oh, excuse me, I just need to check something. Excuse me, I think I forgot something. Excuse me, right? And you're not lying because you did forget something. You forgot Allah. Right? Whatever it is. And then right? And you get yourself, we call this todia. You can do this. It's fine. So sometimes sometimes it's good to be really, really, really frank with people, right? Like for example, like you know, as I'm sure you've guessed, like I obviously my family's not Muslim. Like my little sister my little sister, because I don't know how it is. Like sometimes like with non-Muslims they differ, but like with situation, my aunt got my little sister to talk to me about like would I be interested in going to like her 60th birthday party, right? Um, so my sister sent me a message. She's like, yeah, Aunt Amanda, she's asking. Da, 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 da. So I was just like, my response was, if I were there, I would be the biggest stick in the mud imaginable. That's what I was playing. It was, listen, I love you all. You're my family, but I would just be this giant stick in the mud. I said, look, yes, I don't drink. I don't want to be around drink, but I would just be a stick in the mud. You guys know this expression, don't you? Stick in the mud. I would just be like, right? You'd all be there. Hey, happy birthday. Blah, blah, blah. And I'd just be, right? So I offer an alternative. I say, but I wouldn't object to just meeting up for breakfast. They won't drink, right? We'll get together and have a cup of coffee and some croissant or something, right? Something like that. So you could, that's another way to do is you offer an alternative. You offer some sort of alternative, right? You're not showing that, again, like recovering the talk, you're not showing that, you know, that's a personal aversion. I don't like you. I don't want to be around you. I don't want to spend time with you. But I want to spend time. I'm happy to spend time with you, but in a different circumstance, in a different setting. Does that make sense? Okay, inshallah. You just come from Windsor?
Yeah.
MashaAllah. Sorry?
Sorry for being late.
No, MashaAllah, MashaAllah. In Moain?
So, yeah, with mine, no, he's mine.
Okay. Okay, MashaAllah. Coffee. Nice to meet you, MashaAllah. Coffee. Yes, sir. Oh, sorry. Next, I'll just let this.
Because the sister was raising her hat.
Oh, okay, okay.
For a while.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just for like, what's advice that you would give to people who want to Muslims who want to strengthen their iman and their tawakkul on Allah, and steps that they can take for that?
Okay. Alhamdulillah, mashallah. We covered all this yesterday. No? You didn't come yesterday, did you? Okay. Okay, to strengthen your iman and your tawakkul on Allah is you want to, like one of the things we said yesterday, and something to really stress, and we're gonna discuss this again on Monday, inshallah, is to more so than just the regular dua, regular dhikr and regular du'as, that like du'as from the sunnah and so forth, is your personal dua. Like it's very, very important to have your personal dua to Allah in your own language after the salawat, or even after the fard prayers, or even in the middle of the night or Salat duha time, and to have that conversation with Allah. Have the conversation with Allah, because when you make dua to Allah, again, it's not about the thing you're asking for, but it's about manifesting your slave to Allah and your neediness before Allah. And so when you make dua to Allah, you make dua like just for anything and everything. Nothing's too big, nothing's too small for Allah, right? So when you get into the situation where you are asking Allah not just for things that you think are hard to grasp, like or hard to attain, like okay, I need help getting my exam done, or I need help getting through that job interview, or I need help getting my degree, or marrying so and so, or getting that house, or right. But when you start asking Allah for really basic things, quote unquote basic things, right? Like help me get home tonight, help me get a meal tonight, help me sleep well tonight, help me get up tomorrow morning, assist me in this, assist me in that, all these little basic things, then that increases your sense of slave to Allah, your neediness before Allah, which is ultimately your reliance on Allah. And you start realizing more and more, hey, I actually need Allah for everything. Because I always say to people, don't treat Allah like he's your boss at work. I'll only ask him about the big stuff. Everything else I can do myself. Like, no, it's nonsense, right? You need Allah for everything. And one thing I also mentioned yesterday was like the du'as like Salat al-Hajjah, like just expressing your neediness. So if there's a lot of dua and like we said yesterday, like conversation with Allah, you're talking to Allah, not gimme, but love talking to Allah. That will definitely increase, inshallah, your sense of tawakkul, because you start realizing more and more that hey, I actually need Allah for everything. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, barakallahu feekum. Question you.
So at times we may in the safe harbor, we believe we're doing it in a manner that's correct, in a manner that's considered of the other person, where in reality it's in a manner that's done where it's intimidating towards the other person.
Okay.
Maybe arrogant.
Yeah.
What are action-based steps that we could take towards ensuring that, when we give nasiha, it's conscious of Allah and conscious of the other person?
Okay. Alhamdulillah. So this is a very, very important question, because this requires sort of like knowledge of yourself and then knowledge of the other person, like how like that person's like personality, how that person sees and views things, how that person responds to people. And then it also would depend ultimately on your relationship with that person. You see, so like I gave the example earlier, like you could give it'd be much easier to give advice to like a younger sibling as opposed to an older sibling. Like I gave the example earlier of like my younger sister. That's very easy for me to talk to her. It's very easy for me to explain things to her, right? She's like, oh, you're my big brother, right? Even though she's not a Muslim, it's like, you're my big brother, right? My older sister, forget it. I wouldn't even dare. So, you want to just you want to be very, very careful of what can I say? You do get a sense like when you're talking to someone, you can get a sense of like their body language, the way they're looking at you. So like, are they actually engaging? Are they listening to what you're saying, or do they feel offended? Right? Do they feel they want to get away? Right? Like there's all these little clues, right? So sometimes when you're talking to someone, it's like, look where the feet are pointed. Like sometimes they're talking to you, but their feet are pointed over there. It's like right? They want to get away. So yes, you're doing everything in the right way, but maybe maybe that person for whatever reason is not receptive. The other thing to do is also just to build up. Maybe there's someone that you care about, you want to give nasiha to. You want to build up a relationship first. Like maybe they don't know you well enough. Maybe they don't feel comfortable with you enough. So maybe what you need to do is you need to build up a relationship, like a friendship with that person, over time. Spend more time with them where they feel more comfortable with you, they trust you more, and then you can give the advice. Have you found that like sometimes you're giving advice to someone who doesn't know you that well, or
It's like in all situations where you don't have to give, let's say, has someone, a sister or brother that, you know, you may come across the mission.
Okay.
That you just met, or
okay,
someone close to you, or something like that. Either or situation, regardless.
okay, yeah. Well, that's what I was saying. I would say like you can build up a friendship or relationship with that person so they trust you, or you can get someone else to do it for you. That's another thing to consider is like maybe this person would listen to me. Find someone else who listens to you. Again, it's like a science. Like I remember Munkar. It's like a science in of itself. One of the teachers I know in Bradford, like that was his PhD. He did in Damascus. Like it's very there's a lot to consider. There's a lot to consider. So what I would say to you is see how far you can go. If you feel you're not getting a response, then you have to ask, okay, maybe I need to build more of a relationship with this person, or maybe I'm not the right person. Maybe it'd be better if someone else did it. Does that answer your question?
That
Lovely. Yes, sir.
I'd like to bring a couple of points. One of the brothers here mentioned, to venture out to Muslim country, especially for studying or just there. One of the things you have to ask yourself is that, like, is how religious are you, right? Because things that, like, if the average person, if they're involved around any kind of degeneracy that's happening in the West, it's also happening in the East.
Yeah.
And there's no East or West.
Yeah.
Right? It's either you're in the deed or you're not.
Mm.
In one of the Muslim countries that I'm unfortunately going through, and this country is often bragged about social media for, boom, it's a halal and so on develop. And a lot of the a lot of Muslim countries around there, like Pakistan, Bangladesh, Egypt, Somalia, they go to this place, right? This country. Yeah, you probably understand. I know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
So I went there for 3 weeks. I wanted to buy a small property.
Okay.
If I were to retire there, I go to one of their college campuses, and I had the chance of going there when I was much younger. So you have four or five universities in one town, and in the middle of the university you have a water resort. It's like having like all the top universities in Toronto, and in the middle of the universities you have Canada's Wonderland or water park. And let's just say, just because it's a Muslim country, the sisters there are not very hijab when they go to the park.
Okay.
The reason why I'm bringing this up is that all the fitna we see in the West, whether it be Hollywood or Silicon Valley, it's reached their role. The second point is that I'm going over this book called Views of Womanhood.
Yeah.
And, some of the predictions the Shaykh, the ulama has made, right? It's coming to be very true. So I don't know. You'll probably heard of it, but for the people here, I highly recommend you read the book.
Okay. Use a woman. Okay. Okay. Was there a question there, or just a comment, or?
It was more of a comment about, about being honest with yourself. Like, if you're not religious over here, like, going there, right?
Yeah, I mean, it might not. Yeah. Well, that's I think the summary is don't rely on the environment to change you, right? That the effort has to come from within. The effort has to come from within. Don't rely on the environment to change you. Absolutely. Yes.
Giving advice public and private. But I read a quote by that people are like receiving like and I felt like I've experienced it. Like I had somebody that's speaking to me.
Yeah.
And then at first I thought it was genuine, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna walk away.
Yeah.
This is literally like this area. Like,
Yeah. No, it actually no, it actually wasn't mentioned in the talk, but yeah, it's absolutely right. That's another thing about is that it's always much more effective to advise someone in private. right? Because in front of other people, it can be embarrassing. That person can get like defensive and feel that, okay, are you trying to publicly humiliate me or whatever it is? It's always, always, always wiser to do it in private because the person will sense sincerity from you. If you do it in private, the person's like, okay, this person is actually trying to help me. This isn't about show. This isn't about, popularity or whatever it is. It's just, this person just wants khair from me. So definitely to advise people in private. It's much, much better, much more effective, much more conducive to khair, inshallah. Anything else? Oh, yes, sir.
Going back to what you were speaking about, walking away from and setting things out so much. Right? Going back to that, what about like situations where you can't really like walk away from it, but you have to like, address it. Like for example, like shaking hands with the opposite gender. Like how would you, how would you like address that situation? How would you go about it? Because I work in corporate, it's a bit awkward sometimes.
Yeah. Say you have COVID.
Go into detail. Right.
Say you have COVID. No. No, wait, they might quarantine you. No, that's too extreme. That's too extreme. Okay. So shaking hand. Wait, hold on a second. Let me ask a question here because in the UK, we had this there's this big craze a little while ago, and it's kind of like lingered. Did you guys ever have this thing called like diversity training? You guys had that, right? Diversity training, where they would actually teach people like, Muslims don't shake hands and women don't do it. Yeah, we had that in the UK.
We have diversity training, but they don't teach us. Yeah.
Yeah,
They
The-
teach us about
the other diverse people.
I'll ask this, Sheikh, in terms of corporate events, especially if you're serving drink, right? I'll just have a cup of coffee or drink on my right hand.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
shaking hands, you could just, like that.
Yeah. Do the ethereal thing, just tap your chest. Right? Or what you could do is you could just cough into your hand and say, oh, sorry. Yeah, there's ways. One of my teachers, he advises always having like little chocolates or candy bars in your pocket. Right? So like a woman sticks out her hand, just put the chocolate in her hand. Oh, nice to meet you here. Yeah, it's a way out of it. Casual. I think we're gonna get kicked out soon. They're gonna release. Yeah.
There, so,
Asr Salah, and it's 8 o'clock. Oh, it's even Hanafi time now.
yeah,
Yeah.
you guys have any more further questions, you guys can either send it to the Telegram, or you can come inshallah on Monday.
Yeah, on Monday, inshallah. Inshallah.
Well, Thursday.
Shukran.
That's what I said.